The day I was accepted into Columbia Law, I came home with champagne to celebrate the future I had spent 7 years saving for. Instead, I found my parents sitting around our dining table, clinking glasses with my sister, Chloe. My father pushed an empty manila folder across the mahogany wood. The custodial account my grandfather had established for my tuition, the $92,000 I had worked 2 jobs to grow and protect, was completely empty. My mother didn't even look up from her drink. She said Chloe needed a fairy tale wedding in Tuscany and a down payment on a luxury condo because she was delicate, while I was strong enough to figure it out on my own. I packed my car that night and walked out into the rain. 8 years later, when the foreclosure notice arrived at their door, they finally realized who actually held the deed. Welcome to BT Revenge Tales. Subscribe for more calculated payback and true life stories. My name is Claire Vance. I am 30 years old now, a practicing corporate litigation attorney, but I still remember the freezing chill of the night my family erased my future. I was 22, clutching my Columbia Law acceptance letter like a golden ticket out of mediocrity. That $92,000 wasn't just a number on a balance sheet. My late grandfather, Arthur, had seeded $30,000 into a custodial account before he passed, and I spent 7 grueling years working double shifts as a diner waitress and campus library clerk to build the rest. Every penny was earmarked for my tuition. When my father slid that empty bank statement across the table, his hand didn't even tremble. My mother poured another glass of Pinot Grigio, casually explaining that Chloe deserved a society wedding and an Italian honeymoon. They called me the durable one, the girl who could always take a hit and keep standing. I didn't yell. I didn't shed a single tear in front of them. I packed my Honda Civic, drove away, and severed the line completely. The next 4 years were an exercise in pure survival. I deferred my admission by a year, took out high-interest private loans, and found a drafty basement studio in Queens where the radiator clanked all night. My days were a blur of 16-hour grinds, working as a night shift document clerk at a midtown firm, attending evening law lectures on 4 hours of broken sleep, and rationing 99-cent noodle packets. Meanwhile, my phone would occasionally buzz with forwarded screenshots from mutual acquaintances. Chloe was living the high life on my stolen sweat, sipping vintage Prosecco along the Amalfi Coast, flaunting designer handbags, and hosting catered rooftop parties in a penthouse condo my parents had co-signed. Every time my bones ached from exhaustion, I looked at those pictures and turned my pain into fuel. I didn't just survive law school. I graduated in the top 5% of my class, passed the New York bar on my first attempt, and walked straight into a 6-figure associate position at Sterling and Cross. I was finally building my own empire from the ashes. While my career accelerated, my family's carefully manufactured illusion began to rot from the inside out. Within 5 years, Chloe's fairy tale marriage imploded in a catastrophic, high-asset divorce. Her husband walked away with a luxury condo, exposing hundreds of thousands in unpaid credit card debts they had run up together. Instead of letting their golden child face reality, my parents doubled down. They refinanced the family home in Westchester twice, liquidated my father's 401k, and poured every remaining cent into funding Chloe's disastrous vanity boutique, which collapsed in less than 8 months. They were drowning, bleeding cash just to maintain appearances in their affluent suburb. Meanwhile, I made junior partner at 30. I lived well below my means, funneling my bonuses and investment capital into Vanguard Holdings, a private real estate entity I established with a trusted financial advisor. We specialized in acquiring distressed residential notes and secondary mortgages. I watched from the shadows as my parents traded their financial security for Chloe's fleeting whims, inching steadily toward the edge of an abyss. It was a routine Tuesday when my automated public records alert pinged my terminal. My childhood home on Maple Crest Drive was entering pre-foreclosure. After taking out 3 predatory equity lines to cover Chloe's legal retainers and shopping debts, my parents had defaulted on 6 consecutive mortgage payments and owed $50,000 in property taxes. The local regional bank was preparing to sell the distressed paper at a private debt auction. My pulse didn't race. My mind went cold and analytical. Through Vanguard Holdings, I moved swiftly. Within 72 hours, I wired the full liquidity required to purchase the primary mortgage note, the subordinate liens, and delinquent municipal tax certificates. I paid the full balance to ensure absolute, unquestioned title to the debt. By the end of the week, I wasn't just their estranged daughter who had walked out into the rain. I was their exclusive creditor, their primary lien holder, and the sole owner of their mortgage. When Vanguard Holdings served the formal 30-day demand letter, they had no idea who held the pen. The reception desk rang my direct line 3 weeks later. My assistant informed me that a couple and a younger woman were in the lobby without an appointment, claiming to be the family of the managing partner. When I stepped out, the sight was almost pathetic. My father's hair was entirely gray, his posture stooped. My mother's designer blazer looked 10 years out of style, and Chloe was fidgeting nervously with an imitation luxury bag. 8 years of total silence dissolved into plastic smiles the moment they saw my tailored suit and panoramic corner suite. My mother reached for my arm with trembling hands, weeping about how much they had missed me and how proud they always were of my resilience. My father cleared his throat, pulling out the Vanguard Holdings default notice. They claimed an aggressive, faceless corporate shark was trying to throw them onto the street over a temporary cash flow problem. Chloe chimed in, pleading for sisterly solidarity and asking for a modest $120,000 bridge loan to save the family heritage. They genuinely expected me to write the check. I ushered them into the main glass conference room, asked my assistant to bring in 4 glasses of tap water, and sat at the head of the polished obsidian table. For 10 straight minutes, I listened without offering a single word of interruption as they rehearsed their practice sob stories about unexpected market downturns and bad investments. When the room finally went quiet, waiting eagerly for my checkbook, I unbuttoned my blazer, reached into my leather portfolio, and slid a single document across the table. It was the certified deed transfer and the managing member resolution for Vanguard Holdings, stamped with my signature in dark blue ink. My father picked up the paper, his eyes scanning down the page before locking onto my name as the sole controlling director. The color instantly drained from his face. My mother gasped, dropping her water glass onto the carpet, while Chloe looked between us in complete, paralyzed horror. "You called me strong 8 years ago when you stole $92,000, I said evenly. "Now prove how strong you are." I offered them one single, non-negotiable option, a voluntary deed in lieu of foreclosure. In exchange for surrendering the keys within 14 days without stripping the fixtures, I agreed to waive all deficiency judgments and provide a $2,000 security deposit for a modest 2-bedroom rental outside the city. My mother wept openly, begging for family mercy, while Chloe screamed that I was cold and heartless. My father merely signed the surrender forms with a shaking pen, finally realizing that the daughter they discarded held every single card. 2 weeks later, the moving truck cleared out of Maple Crest Drive, leaving them to adjust to a cramped, ordinary life funded by their own meager pensions. Looking out over the Manhattan skyline from my office that evening, I felt no lingering anger, only an overwhelming sense of quiet peace. They taught me how to survive without a safety net. I merely handed them the bill for the education they stole.